the Jai Radha Madhava prayers. We can start with that. Is he there in the booth? Yeah. Sutra Malika Prabhu. Jai, can you bring Jai Radha? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jasodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhava Ashtasakhi ki Jai. Sri Kumar Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for coming for the Sunday Feast lecture. Today the topic is the psychology of anger and consequently how to manage it. That would be the theme. So before we start, we offer the Mangalacharan prayers. Or actually we can do the verse from Bhagavad-gita to... Anybody remembers the verse which I am referring to? Dhyayato Vishyam. So that would be 262. Yes, Sri Kumar Prabhu, thank you. We'll read that verse and then... So, before we start on this verse, there are two types of anger when we read Srila Prabhupada's books. One type of anger actually is the spiritual anger. We do hear of many places where Srimati Radharani is angry with Krishna. Right? And there is something called, the technical term for that is man, an anger that comes from jealousy. In the spiritual world, those types of pastimes happen, and that spiritual anger of Radharani embellishes, enhances, and excites the loving mood of Sri Krishna. This class is strictly not about those topics, which are transcendental to our material senses. And they are topics which are dealt among Paramahamsas, and the topics in the material world, or the anger that is there in the material world, that is what will be discussed today. So just to clarify that point at the outset, because Radharani's anger is a whole other discussion, why she gets angry with Krishna and why she refuses to see Krishna and how Krishna is afraid of Radharani. Those are all like a whole other dimension. We won't get into that. But we will talk about the anger that we face commonly in the material world. Does anybody not get angry at any point of time? Please raise their hands. I dare not do that. So we read this particular verse from Bhagavad-gita. Kindly repeat after me. This is from the 2nd chapter, 62nd verse. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa Dhyayato vishayan pumsa Sangasteshu pajayate Sangat sanjayate kama Kamat krodho bhijayate. Can any of the devotees want to repeat that verse? Sri Kumar Prabhu, maybe Shamrup Prabhu after that. Dhyayato vishayan pumsa Sangasteshu pajayate
Sangat sanjayate kamaha
Sangat sanjayate kama
Kamat krodho bhijayate
Kamat krodho bhijayate.
Dhayato Vishayan Pumsa
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa
Sangaste Supajayate
Sangaste Shupajayate
Sangat Sanjayate Kama
Sangat Sanjayate Kama
Kamat Krodho Bhijayate
Kamat Krodho Bijayate. Kumari Mataji, you want to repeat, please? Can somebody give her a mic? After that, you can try. Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa Sangaste Shupajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kamat Krodho Bijayate. Last.
Dhyayato Vishayam Pumsa
Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa
Sangaste Shupajayate
Sangaste Shupajayate
Sangat Sanjayate Kama
Sangat Sanjayate Kama
Kamat Krodho Vijayate.
Kamat Krodho Bhijayate. Kindly repeat after me. Dhyayataha. While contemplating.
While contemplating.
Can you please take the mic? Thank you. And you can actually turn off the mic. Vishayan, sense objects. Pumsaha, of a person. Sangaha, attachment. Teshu, in the sense objects. Upajayate, develops. Sangat, from attachment. Sanjayate, develops. Kamaha, desire. Kamat, from desire. Krodaha, anger. Abhijayate, becomes manifest. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Kindly repeat the translation. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. Purport. One who is not in Krishna consciousness is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagements, and if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of the demigods in the heavenly planets, is subject to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation, but when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord shuns all material enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in association of the Lord. And that is the secret of success. One is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail, for the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses. So we'll do the Mangalacharan prayers and then we can start. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Yutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. Vancha kalpatarubhayascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Matsamo nasti papatma na paradhi cha kaschana parihare pilajjame kimbruve purushottama. Bhumau skalitapadanam Bhumireva Valambanam Tvai Jata Paradhanam Tvameva Sharanam Prabho. Govinda Vallabhe Radhe Prarthaye Tvamaham Sada Tvadiyam iti janatu Govindo Mam Tvaya Saha. Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurasmitasyam. Vadami Radham Karunabharadram Tato Mamanyasti Katirna Kapi. Radha Radhita Radhesha Radhika Pranavallabha Radha Ramana Vandetvam Radhika Prema Nirjita. Hare Krishna. I welcome all of the devotees again to the Sunday feast at ISKCON Silicon Valley. I'm grateful that you were able to come. So we read, just to give the earlier disclaimer, this class is mainly about material anger that we are going to discuss, not about the spiritual anger. And in the spiritual world, there are many instances where the anger of Radharani is discussed at length, and there is a specific term for that, but that's not the topic. The topic here is when we confront on a day-to-day basis, especially in this stressful life of Kali Yuga, what to speak of a life in Bay Area, which is even more stressful. So the goal is, how can we control that anger? Or more than controlling, how can you manage it? And we'll discuss on why I'm using the word manage a little later. So in the verse that we discussed, Dhyayato Vishyan Pumsaha, Sangas Teshu Pajayate, Sangat Sanjayate Kamaha, Kamat Krodho Vijayate. And the genesis or the root of the anger for a conditioned soul is the contemplation of material objects. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita that we are eternal spirit souls, part and parcel of Krishna. We are not these material bodies. We have not these material identities that we carry. But in the conditioned state, when you have forgotten your spiritual identity, then the living entity identifies himself or herself with matter. When you contemplate on matter, an attachment develops. When from attachment is what is called a mild form of attachment. But then the word lust or a strong passion is used when that attachment becomes really strong. And one of the examples people can think is, can you think of some examples where you just wake up, sleep with one thing and wake up with the same thing in the mind, and your mind is constantly attached to that? Can anybody think of some things or heard of people think like that? Yes, Shamarupa Prabhu.
I think most common thing in this world is the honey, that's the money.
Honey is the money. People always constantly
contemplate on the money. There is especially either big amount transaction, like either gain or loss, whatever.
Right. So people who are like into business, their whole idea is money. They get up in the morning and see how much they make, how much they have, and overnight did somebody take away their money as you slept, so on and so forth. It's a nice point.
Also, somebody buys a new car or basically anything that can excite, or iPhone 10, let's say.
Yes.
Before sleep and after sleep. Sweetness of that.
Yeah. It's a big thing these days. Sleeping with the phone and waking with the phone. In fact, I read the news report, a man actually married his phone. In Las Vegas, you can do those kinds of things, I heard. Anyways. What else? If you are strongly following a sports event or some championships or some sort of tournament, then till the tournament, from the time the tournament starts and the tournament ends, your mind is completely absorbed. Which team is doing what, and where is my team, and what is the score. So your mind is completely absorbed in that. When we say to the people that Krishna says in the 8th chapter, Maya Saktam Anapartha. No, not that. What is that? Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Mam Anusmara Yudhyacha Maya Arpita. Krishna says, always think of me and fight the battle. That is really impossible. How can I think of Krishna and do my job at the same time? But if you carefully think, we do it all the time. If there is a tournament, as I mentioned, it's going on, you are still eating, sleeping, going to work for the entire 2-3 months that the tournament is going on, but still you are able to do it. Mamanusmara Yudhyacha is happening, but it's only happening for the game tournament or some event that's going on, right? Or a newly born child. The mother is doing her activity, but her focus is always on the child. It's in the back of her mind. So, yes, Ramananda Sakaprabhu, fresh from Yatra, please give us your realizations.
No, regarding thinking of Krishna while doing something else, there are two kinds of activities that we can do. One is, one kind of activities involve a more mental level work. Other kind of activities involve less of mental level work. And so when mental level work is less and physical level work can be more or less, doesn't matter, then it's easy to think of Krishna or think of something else while doing that work. But if we have to do more mental level work, like for example developing software, we are constantly thinking of it, then at the same time to think of something else is almost impossible for me.
Agreed. The point I'm trying to make is, I'm not saying people should multitask, because scientists and psychologists and other behavioral expertise people, they have said it's impossible to multitask because the mind can be fixed only at one thing at the same time. The point is the consciousness, because as soon as you are done coding with the software and your 2-3 hours of intense coding is done, your mind immediately switches back to what is the score or what is the stock market. Oh my God, I've completely forgot. As if like coding the software was like a secondary thing you need to do, and actually following the stock market is your number one priority in life kind of thing. So following Krishna or worshipping Krishna is the number one priority, and we have to do what we need to do and that moment it might seem that we have forgotten Krishna, because when you are coding, you really don't start from the line 1, Hare Krishna Mahamantra, code, and then by the end of 3 hours, you're just coding Hare Krishna. You have to code Java or Python or whatever language that you're coding in. Otherwise, the program won't run. Your customers will see something different than what they expect when you code only Hare Krishna in your program. Assuming it runs. What else? What else? Contemplation. We are in the stage of contemplation right now. We in the stage of deep attachment to something. We haven't come to the anger yet. Shamalangi Mati, please give her a mic.
So not now, but earlier, like some TV serials or some movies, those would linger
Yes.
in the mind.
Yeah, they're soap operas, right? Yeah, it's like you're just waiting. Unfortunately, in the modern context, even that charm is gone. Because they are saying that we will give you the whole episodes at one stroke. And then people do what is these days called binge watching. Means that the whole weekend is gone and you have spent 12, 13, 14, 15 hours just watching that episodes of the whole thing. So they said, we'll give you that charm is gone these days. What else? What else?
Work.
Work?
If you have too much work and so many issues coming up again, your manager is following up.
Yeah, work can be a big thing these days because you don't really close your laptop at 5 o'clock. You come home, you have some people might have offshore calls, some people might have some issues to debug, or some customers are complaining about the software and you need to look into it. Yeah, it can be a big thing. But the contemplation is usually forced, unless you are deeply into career. You really don't want to deal with this. What else? Health. People who have health can be very health conscious, or if genuine some health issues, your focus can be a lot on that. So there are many levels of contemplation, deep contemplation. Some of them make sense, but some of them actually are unrealistic. For example, money-wise, if you get money, then people are happy, but the same way the money is lost, then people get angry and sad. So Krishna says that after a certain stage, invariably the lust turns into anger, one way or other. If you have enjoyed what you wanted, after a stage it becomes stale. People, for example, there could be a relationship where before marriage, both the husband and wife or the boy and girl may be really happy, and after a stage, that same passion can turn into anger. Or it could be that you purchased a very expensive item of your dreams, maybe it's a car, home, whatever you can put in. And after a stage, when you have to start paying the mortgage bill or the car payments, or when you take the car to the servicing and they slap you with a bill of $2,000, and then you are like, why did I do that? I get so angry, I need to sell this car. So the anger is a concomitant factor for trying to enjoy this material world. And when that enjoyment is disturbed, usually material world happiness is very flickering and rare. From the objects that you try to get happiness, it's fleeting. It comes, it goes. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, because people say, I don't care. Some people say when you try to preach spiritual thing, they say, I really don't care, I'm enjoying life. Why are you bothering me? But if you coolly analyze, you will see that that enjoyment from material objects is really fleeting. It comes, it goes. The amount actually spent in enjoying, or the quality of that enjoyment, is very small compared to the contemplation and the after effects. It's just the nature of this material world. So when you have set up yourself to enjoy this world, then you have set up yourself for anger management classes. So let's go ahead a little bit. So material attachment causes anger. What else can cause anger? Material attachment can be subdivided into many other categories. One of the categories from material attachment is envy. Usually envy causes anger. If you are envious of someone, so there is an office situation where 2 people are trying for promotion, or 3 people, I don't know, it could be. Let's go with 2. There are 2 people who are trying to find promotions. And it so happens Mr. A and Mr. B, and Mr. B gets a promotion and Mr. A goes home, and that day he doesn't even want his family members get out of the house, because I'm coming home in the evening and I'm in such a foul mood that and then people at the home, they have no clue why is he so miserable, because as a man he can't tell he lost, and then they don't know what's going on. So the envy, it can cause anger, because that person was, again, that envy came from material attachment. Material attachment is the root cause, and you can have subdivided headings. Shall I tell a story from Srimad Bhagavatam? And we think Kali Yuga is the age of peace and calmness. It's the age of quarrel and hypocrisy. And it is pretty apparent about the quarrels. Lord Brahma is the original person of this universe, and he was born from the navel of Lord Vishnu. He performed austerities because his job was to subcreate the universe, or secondary creator. So he performed austerities, and then he had 5 children. His children were Devahuti, Akuti, Prashuti, Uttanapada, and Priyavrata. In the line of Akuti, there were many descendants, and amongst the descendants, there was a daughter, there was Daksha, who had a daughter called Sati, who was handed to Lord Vishnu, for Lord Shiva. So, who is the wife of Lord Shiva? Sati. Thank you. I asked you so that if I made sense to you or spoke nonsense. Okay, good. I spoke sense. That's good news for all of you. In those days, they used to perform grand sacrifices. And those sacrifices were not like little bit of fire sacrifice with some ghee and wood and some mantras. Demigods and sub-demigods from all over the universe would come to attend that sacrifice. So it was a big issue. In Gaur Purnim festival or other Janmashtami festivals in our temple, we see that people are coming from all over, and you see how gorgeously ladies decorate. So also men. So the who's who of the universe came. All the demigods came, and Lord Brahma came. The Gandharvas, the Kinnaras, the Yakshas, the minor major demigods, everybody came. And everybody was seated. Daksha was responsible, or he was one of the chief progenitors. And then he came. When Daksha came, his body was effulgent. And when he walked into the arena of the sacrifice, everybody stood up. Just like getting a Facebook thumbs up, everybody stood up. But two people did not get up. One was, and then who was the other? Shiva. So they did not get up. And Daksha noticed this. He became angry. He said to the whole assembly of sages, "Oh, all these assembled great sages, I have no envy or I have no anger in my heart," though he had. "I am speaking about the nature of this Shiva. This Shiva is auspicious." Shiva means actually auspicious. The words Shiva, Sha and Shi and Vas actually stands for Shiva, which means auspicious path. He said, this person Shiva is auspicious in name only. Actually, he is the most inauspicious person. He hangs around with ghosts and bhutas and pretas. He lives in crematoriums. He smears his body with ashes that come from the funeral pyres. And he doesn't wear nice garland of lotus flowers. He wears the garlands made of human skulls. And he behaves like crazy person. He has no proper character or cleanliness. And this Shiva did not dare to get up and offer me respects when I came into this assembly. And out of anger, he says to Lord Shiva, he says, "I curse him that when the demigods come together and accept sacrificial offerings, may this Shiva never get a portion of it." And he walks away. Everybody saying, "Please, please don't do that. Please don't do that." He's saying, "Don't, just stop." And then he walks off to his home. When this happens, who is the carrier of Lord Shiva? So, quiz question. Nandi, is it like a dog? Oh, bull. Okay. Okay, good. So Nandi, the bull carrier, is of Lord Shiva. Another question. So who is the carrier? Who is the carrier of Brahma? And of Lord Vishnu? And of Kartikeya? Peacock. Good. Thank you. So Nandishwara, the bull of Lord Shiva, he is very offended that his spiritual master and his lord was cursed. He says, "I curse all these brahmanas who are doing this sacrifice," because the people came there to do sacrifice. They were not there to watch football. They said, "All these brahmanas who came here and who are the followers of Vedic sacrifices, I curse them to be completely attached to sense gratification and forever live in the path of birth and death." And they forget the meaning of Vedas and they just become completely deluded. And Bhrigu, who was on the side of Daksha, he cursed the followers of Lord Shiva. He said, the followers of Lord Shiva, they will become completely atheistic and they will imitate Lord Shiva by consuming wine and flesh and all sorts of abominable, and the curse and the counter curse. It was literally like the Wild Wild West movie. Only there were no bullets, only there were like words. Now, when you are completely humiliated in an assembly and your followers stand up for you, what would be your first reaction? First you will be like, "Okay, good, my prestige in my assembly, somehow it is there." And then you will say, "Look at me, my followers." But Lord Shiva was Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. He was not like saying, "Hey, look at my powers. You guys cursed me, my followers only cursed you. What's the big deal?" So he became morose. He became sad at the whole turn of events. And he quietly, without saying anything to anybody, he just walked off. He didn't even stay there. should I continue with the story? So this was there going on for a long time. So Lord Shiva and Daksha, they did not contact each other, either via Twitter or Facebook or phone call. For a long time that animosity was going on. And one day, so Brahma appointed Daksha as one of the chief Prajapatis. He was just a Prajapati and he became the chief Prajapatis. And Daksha became really puffed up and proud. And he started performing a sacrifice. That sacrifice in Bhagavatam says is Brihashava. And then to perform that sacrifice, you need to perform another sacrifice called Vajpaya. So he was performing this sacrifice. And all the demigods and all the sub-demigods, because Bhagavatam says Yakshas, Gandharvas and Kinnaras, they are neither humans nor they are demigods. They are somewhere in the middle category, hybrid demigods. So all of them were going. Every demigod had their own plane. It was not like they had to book economy coach class and do the screening and at the airports and get crammed into planes. And neither those planes were too crowded. So each of the demigod has their own planes. And they were flying along with their consorts. And those consorts were dressed beautifully in wonderful ornaments and saris and everything. And they were laughing and glittering and they were excited about the upcoming sacrifice. Because in those days there was no Super Bowl. This was like a big thing. And Sati, she saw that. She saw that, all these exalted beings are going to her father's house. She said to Lord Shiva, please understand, she was very diplomatic. She didn't send a text to Lord Shiva, see you dude, very respectful. He said, oh my Lord, your father-in-law is performing a sacrifice. And if you so wish, we should go. And then she anticipated Shiva's objection. Because please understand that Daksha was performing this sacrifice in a gorgeous fashion, but he never sent out an invite to Lord Shiva. Invitation. And Sati knew that the first question Lord Shiva would ask, we did not get an invitation. So why are we going? So anticipating that question, Sati says, of course we did not get an invitation, but please understand, there is no harm if you have to go to the house of friend, relative or your parents uninvited. It's etiquette that you can go to these houses without invitation. And besides, I want to see my sisters, I want to see my mother, and I just want to see my father, and just go. And she says one more thing, because men get afraid. Oh, man, okay, you have to go and attend this wedding, then I need to spend money on the ornaments and clothes and so on and so forth. She said, don't worry, my father gave me a lot of ornaments. I'm going to wear those ornaments. Because Shiva was not, he was materially not, outstanding. He himself barely wore anything. And he didn't give much to Lord Sati. That's what Bhagavatam says. So when she got married to Lord Shiva, in dowry, Daksha gave her a lot of ornaments and gold and other stuff. And she said, I'm going to wear those, so don't worry about buying stuff. We don't have to go to Macy's or some other store. And then Lord Shiva didn't get angry. He didn't say, what are you talking? He insulted me in front of everybody and you want to go back to your father? He didn't do that. He said to his wife, oh, my beautiful wife. He says, my beautiful wife. Oh, my beautiful wife. The Bhagavatam word that is exactly used is Shobhane, means, oh, beautiful one, my wife. It is true that you can go to the house of your father or parents to her friend or relative uninvited. But if that person is envious of you and he's going to look at you with the eyes that are going to burn you and constantly criticize you, then it is not good to go to their house. Please understand that you are the favorite daughter of your father and you are his pet. But because you are married to me, he will no longer see that relationship. Instead, he will not see you as his daughter, but the wife of his arch enemy. And he will insult you. He will not care for you. And if you are in such a situation, death is even better than to be in such a situation. So it does not bode well for you. Do not go. What would be the response of a woman in such situation? It's pretty desperate. On one hand, you want to go and see your parents and sisters and all this. Imagine that you have a... I don't know if anyone tried or even dared or even say the wife had a marriage at home and it was a big event, the only brother or sister getting married, and you didn't like the face of your father-in-law, so you said, no, please don't go. Or you had some altercation, he said some bad words at your marriage and you were like really upset with that. So what should Sati do? She was caught in the haunts of a dilemma. On one hand, her husband said don't. On the other hand, she had this strong desire to see her parents. But there was a subtle reason why she wanted to go. And I'll tell you a little later. So Sati thought about it, and she began to pace that room up and down, up and down, up and down. I want to go, but I don't want to go. And then she became really angry at her husband for not letting her go. In fact, Shiva was Shiva, otherwise she would have been burnt by her glance. It is said in Bhagavatam that her look was so intense and furious at Lord Shiva that she would have burnt him with his glance. But Lord Shiva is saved. So if you do that to your wife, then if she has some mystic powers, better write up your will. So she just paced up and down the room and she took off. She didn't even wait to say goodbye to Lord Shiva, because if she says goodbye, he'll say don't go, and then second time she can't say anything. She has to stay. So she didn't even tell. She walked off. And walked off at a fast pace because Shiva didn't want to be, and she didn't want to be stopped by Shiva. So she went to a certain distance, and then all the followers of Lord Shiva went. They made sure that all her valuables were taken, all her favorite, she had a favorite bird as a pet, and that was taken, and so on and so forth. And with music and procession befitting the wife of Lord Shiva, they all went to the arena. Have I bored you enough, or should I continue with what's happened at the arena? No commercial break. Sure, I'm planning to sell something during the commercial break. So she goes to the arena, and there was her father that gave her birth and raised her as her pet, did not even bother to look at her when she went all the way. She didn't acknowledge her presence. He did not even bother to welcome her with warm words or ask for her welfare, nothing. He looked at her and barely looked at her and was doing about his stuff. But her sisters and her mother, they welcomed her with sweet words and with tears in her eyes and said, please, oh nice, you just came. Please sit, and I'm glad you came, and so on and so forth. But Sati, she was really upset, and she didn't reciprocate with their warm gestures and kind words. The goal or the subtle desire of why she wanted to go to the sacrificial arena was she wanted to see what is the position of her husband. In the sacrificial arena, previously, all the demigods, they would have their respective offering places, pots, where they would come and collect. Because the demigods collect offerings of the sacrifices which are performed by human beings. Krishna says in the Bhagavad-gita, in the beginning, in the 3rd chapter, he said, in the beginning I created the demigods and the human beings. And by performing sacrifices by the human beings, the demigods are pleased. Because the demigods are pleased, then we get rain. Otherwise, we can see that how this world is having a serious scarcity of water. In fact, the news reports tell that the Cape Town in South Africa is the first city which will not have water. The water is going to go to such dangerously low levels that they may run out of water, with no water. And it seems the government might have to ration the water. The police have to be there, making sure that everybody is taking only whatever water they are allotted. It's a very dire situation. So the demigods, they get their share of sacrificial offering, and they give rains and other things that are needed for this earth. When Sati went to the spot where Lord Shiva's offering was supposed to be there was none. Daksha had said that he completely cut out Lord Shiva from receiving the offerings from that sacrifice. And this infuriated Sati to no end. She said, "This is the position of my husband. I cannot take it anymore." And in front of everyone, she tells to her father, "Oh father, you are such an envious person that you can find faults with a faultless person." And she was referring to her husband, Lord Shiva. It is mentioned that Lord Shiva is the well-wisher of the entire universe. In fact, he does not find faults with anyone, and if someone has minuscule good qualities, he exaggerates and he takes notice of it. For those who want material desires, he gives them material desires. For those who want liberation, it is mentioned that he is capable of giving Kaivalya liberation. And he is auspicious for everyone. You say that he stays in crematorium and wears skulls made from humans, and he is in general unclean. But understand that if you offer a lotus flower to the feet of Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma picks up that lotus flower and places it respectfully on his head. That is the position of Lord Shiva. And you dared to find fault with such a person out of your envy. I am ashamed to be called as your daughter. And when he calls me as Dakshayani, which means the daughter of, I feel disgusted with that title. Because you are such an envious person, I want to give up this attachment or connection that I have with you, and I'm going to give up my body right now. And saying this, she dresses in saffron robes, places herself in proper direction, and she generates a mystic power. And from that mystic power, she gives up her life. And when this is done, it is mentioned that all the people there condemn Daksha, saying that how cruel and hard-hearted you are, that you didn't even bother to take care of your own daughter. So the lessons that we learn from this episode is that envy can be a serious problem in causing anger. The other reason for anger is general dissatisfaction, which can come from envy. In the material world, there will be always people who are better than us. For Daksha and Lord Shiva was always in a superior position. That's just the nature of this world. There are people who are better than us in one way or other. It could be either physical beauty, or it could be intellectual capacity, financial prowess, or just popularity. You name it, there are always people better. And these things are always changing. But when you look at the world, when you contemplate on the world, and when you have that dissatisfaction, that gives rise to anger. What else are the causes of anger that you think? We discussed material attachment or lust, we discussed envy, Then we discussed dissatisfaction, ego, materialistic ego. This attachment and ego, when they come together, they form the deadly scourge that is called envy. I am big person, and how come this? Daksha was thinking like that. I am a very big person. I am the CEO of this assembly, and this person who happens to be my son-in-law, he didn't even bother to give respect. That the desire for respect, that's another thing that gives anger, rise to anger. That people demand respect, and when you don't get it, then you are upset. That comes from ego, false ego, that I need respect, I need power, people should look up to me. So these are all the causes of anger in this material world. What else? That desire for prestige can really extend, in the modern time, it's so unfortunate that teenagers are hanging on to their cell phones. That really has this, when you are in whatever social media sites, it takes a lot of toll on your, why only teenagers, but even adults, it takes a lot of toll when you are artificially praised or when you are artificially criticized on social media. What else? What else can be the sources of anger? I'm not done with the story of Shiva and Daksha, but if you want, then we can stop here, or let's discuss a little bit more about what is the results of anger. When one indulges in anger, what happens? What are the some of the common experiences that we felt? Ramananda Prabhu.
He loses his intelligence.
He loses his intelligence. Very nice.
And then he may do acts that are that may be considered abominable and that may be considered unthinkable because of losing the intelligence.
And sometimes even criminal.
Yeah, and sometimes they may kill each other over a matter of just one coin.
Yeah.
Because of anger.
Thank you. Any other? Yes, Shamarupa Prabhu. And then Vrinda Sevika Mataji.
So under the influence of anger, people may do such things that for which they themselves will repent for their lives. They can speak such words or they can do such actions that they themselves cannot think that they will do, and for which they can repent for their whole life, but the reverse is not possible, so it's just gone.
And sometimes they have to pay with their lives. Can you give an example on that? I think of an example right now where they think they couldn't do it, they did it. This is from Bhagavatam, and later they had to pay for their life for it. Do you know the example that I'm talking about? Parikshit Maharaj, thank you very much. You might say that, Parikshit Maharaj had a serious weakness. He couldn't tolerate hunger and thirst. That's why he did it. But he was there 7 days and 7 nights without drinking, sleeping or eating. But he did. And then he later repented. Yeah, excellent point. Vrinda Sevika. Yes.
Out of anger, one might lose the memory. So in this case, even if there is something good in that situation or in that particular person, and the person just focusing on the bad things and just forget everything about good. So just kind of losing the memory.
Nice, thank you. Your good name, please?
Sunil.
Sunil.
Yeah. Sometimes anger
You have to keep it close to your mouth.
Okay. Sometimes anger can be very useful if you are going to do some kind of righteous violence, like if you are a soldier going to fight, you need to be angry to kill. whenever you don't want overthinking about anything, like anger can be useful that way.
Excellent, thank you. Actually, it's a nice point. You can hold to that thought because I'm going to cover that aspect too. But we'll discuss the negative and then we can discuss your topic. But thank you so much, Sunilji, for bringing that up. Any other negative that we can think? Sri Kumar Prabhu, yes.
Hare Krishna. Relationships can be lost.
Excellent point. Relationships can be lost. What else? Shamarupa Prabhu.
And anger also destroys one's peace.
One's peace, inner peace.
Inner peace. It's like it burns within himself. He might be envious or angry at somebody, so he may or may not impact the other person, but he himself gets burned.
Excellent, thank you.
He cannot sleep, and his bodily things are also changed. Eyes can be red, and
thank you.
He may not get sleep at night, and he can suffer really miserably. That person who is angry.
Excellent point. You are saying that physical and mental health is affected by anger, constant anger. Yeah. Yes, Achyut Kumar.
Depending upon the power of the person, it can lead to wars, it can lead to a lot of havoc. Like the person who is getting angry, if he's the leader of a society and and he has nuclear buttons and everything, right? So.
Yep, that's true. Then what else? Yes, your good name. You have to introduce yourself.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I'm Alex.
Alex?
Yeah.
Alex, Hare Krishna.
We all Krishna movements use Mahaprabhu knowledge about Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva, yes? It's sometimes one thing or one feels or something else have two different ways. We can use the same thing in two sometimes very different ways, in a good or bad qualities, yeah? And sometimes angry we can use like very good quality. If sometimes Krishna use our attachment for make some movement in our life. Sometimes we very afraid do something what Krishna want, and sometimes envy angry give power for us do what Krishna want, but we very afraid. Understand?
Excellent, thank you. One last point before we go on to the next thing. Actually, the anger in the society of devotees can actually create Vaishnava aparadhs. It's the most dangerous thing, at least in the society of Vaishnavas. That could be another downside. The other thing is, if you are too angry, then maybe at your job you are not that respected and your chances of promotions are pretty severely diminished. Yes, you had something on that.
Prabhu bringing up the point like the Krishnas, like so I remember Jagai Madaivan, the story the Prabhuji discussed last time. So that is also like this, he got anger when the Mahaprabhu came, like Nityananda Prabhu went there and he was telling him to take the name of the Lord, and he got super angry and just hit him. And how it is, the anger even. Yeah.
Even if God comes in front of you, you will hit him because you are angry.
Yeah.
Nice point. So we discussed all the detrimental or the harmful effects of anger. So the big question is, should we completely eliminate anger from our lives? Zero anger. No. Venkatesh Chambrolu Prabhu says no. Can you please elaborate?
We are humans, so we have emotions. So when there is a deviation from expectation or that kind of thing, you can suppress it, but it comes. If there is no emotion, then you are not a living being.
Okay. So as a emotional living beings, anger is natural, so we have a right to express it. Okay, interesting. What else? Somebody raised their hand. Yes, Manjula Kantamataji.
Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I remember you taught us that anger is also anything used in the service of the Lord is well used. So the example is Hanuman, who uses his anger to burn Lanka. So that is one example of service, anger being used in service. And another concept is, one thing that I learned in the lectures is that you can, as a mother, as a parent, you can look angry for the service, but never be angry. Don't let the anger become you.
Right.
But use it because sometimes it is needed, like everything else. These are two things I learned.
Excellent, thank you. And you brought up, you also brought up a point about anger being used in a positive way. What other areas of anger do you think is positive? Yes, Prabhuji, back in.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, as per my knowledge, what I got, that there are two kind of anger. In Shastra, it says Kam Rosh and Dharm Rosh. Anything Dharm Rosh is good. Kam Rosh, you do it because of your lust is not getting fulfilled, and then you are angry. So, Dharm Rosh is in favor of God. Kam Rosh is in favor of you.
Thank you.
So, and as far as the Mataji said about getting angry and not getting, just showing, that is called, what my Guruji said, that's called scolding. You scold at your kids, you scold at your juniors, but never take it to your heart and forget it. Once you keep it and you don't forget it, even you say it on your mouth, oh, I have forgotten, or I have, forgiven you. Forgiven never comes until unless you forget. Once you did it scolding for their good, and then you forget, that is a scolding. Once you anger and you keep it in your heart, that is an anger, which is not good.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. What else? So as Sutramalik Prabhu, please bring up Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, text 1. So let's read that. So this verse is Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam Jihva Vegam Udaropastha Vegam Etan Vegan Yo Vishaheti Dira Sarvam Apimam Prithvim Sasishyat. So if you please come down for the translation. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger and the urges of tongue, belly and genitals is qualified to make disciples all over the world. And Srila Prabhupada talks in the Purport, if you can come down a little bit, as Manjula Kantha Mataji was pointing that out. If you can come down a little bit more. Yeah, please keep going. Please keep going. It's a nice Purport. If you have time, you can read through it, but please come down. Please come down. Yeah. Yes, you can stop here. Similarly, anger can be controlled. We cannot stop anger altogether, but if we simply become angry with those who blaspheme the Lord or the devotees of the Lord, we control our anger in Krishna consciousness. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became angry with the miscreant brothers Jagai and Madai, who blasphemed and struck Nityananda Prabhu. In his Sikshashtaka, Lord Chaitanya wrote, Trinadapi sunichena taror api sahishnuna. One should be humbler than the grass and more tolerant than the tree. One may then ask why the Lord exhibited his anger. The point is that one should be ready to tolerate all insults to one's own self. But when Krishna or his pure devotees blaspheme, a genuine devotee becomes angry and acts like fire against offenders. Krodha or anger cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. So I'll repeat that statement again. Krodha, anger, cannot be stopped, but it can be applied rightly. It was in anger that Hanuman set fire to Lanka, but he is worshipped as the greatest devotee of Lord Ramachandra. This means that he utilized his anger in the right way. Arjuna serves as another example. He was not willing to fight, but Krishna incited his anger. You must fight. To fight without anger is not possible. Anger is controlled, however, when utilized in the service of Lord. So, I mean, it is natural. For example, if there is a police who is chasing a criminal, and then he becomes soft-hearted and forgiving, and you just say, it's okay, you have murdered this person, that's fine, you can walk, we can deal with this later. You will be aghast by such kind of attitude, because some services actually need anger. If there is no anger in the teacher, then the second graders will do whatever they want to do all day long. She will go crazy, or he will go crazy trying to teach them, because they will not stop talking or playing in the class. So there is anger needed for discipline of the child. Similarly, in military, imagine if military and anger, those two words are synonymous. This is a very peaceful, all these soldiers are like they are playing on harps and enjoying all day long. This is not military. The first thing, that's what you will say. Because military means strictness. It's there's a lot of violence and anger and discipline is needed. So that's the nature of, there is some nature. So anger has its own benefits. But when the anger is uncontrolled, it's a serious problem. Then it can cause all the stuff that we talked about. So the goal of our Krishna consciousness is not actually to completely eliminate anger. And that's what Srila Prabhupada says here. We don't eliminate anger, but manage it. In that sense, it is more about controlling the anger in the right way. So coming back to my story, should I give a little bit, go into my story? When Daksha criticized Lord Shiva so harshly, it was done out of a sense of false ego and uncontrolled anger. Because later Lord Shiva says that the respect a person offers to another is to that person, but more importantly to the super soul within. Now the question might come up is, if Lord Shiva was the best of the Vaishnavas, why did he not follow the etiquette of offering respects to his father-in-law when he walked in? After all, Krishna, when Sudama went to the house of Krishna, Krishna was not absorbed in meditation and forgot Sudama. He actually invited Sudama to come to his bedroom. It was not like, okay, you wait outside on the porch, I'll just come, I have some business. No, he brought him directly into his own bedroom. And then he washed the feet of Sudama. He gave arati to Sudama. Rukmini Devi, the goddess of fortune, was actually fanning Sudama. Such exalted worship was given by Lord Krishna. So one might question, Shiva had to just stand up. But why didn't he do that? It is mentioned that Lord Shiva was so absorbed in meditating on Lord Vishnu that he saw that same super soul present everywhere, because when you offer respects to someone, you are actually offering respects to the super soul from within, because he was already doing that and he did not get up. That was one reason. And the other reason was that Lord Shiva, by spiritual nature, was superior to Daksha. And in the matters of relationships comes, it is the spirituality that counts first, rather than just the bodily stuff that is in place. So Shiva said, I was completely absorbed in meditating on Lord Vishnu. And there is that famous verse, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. He says that I was in such samadhi that I was seeing the Lord without any covering as he was. And that's the reason why I didn't. I just didn't get up. But Daksha took it on the bodily platform, because people who identify myself with the body and false ego, they think that I am this body, so people should give me respect. Because, why should they give me respect? Because I am. That's it. Then the same thing can be said about Sati. Why did Sati do that? Sati was not only harsh and rebuked her own father, but she gave up her own life. Isn't that suicide is supposed to be some sort of sin? Why did she do it then? The thing is, Sati utilized her anger in the right way. Because when the Lord or his devotee are blasphemed, then your anger, you should not spare it. You cannot spare your anger and keep it aside at that point of time. It is mentioned that Sati could have killed her own father, who was an offender of Lord Shiva. But Sati, being a woman and being the daughter, she couldn't kill her own father. That would be really a gross sense of injustice. And that's the reason she gave up her own body instead of killing her father, which she was very much capable of doing it. So Sati utilized her anger in the right way. So should I continue the story of what happened when the news of his wife's death reached the ears of Lord Shiva? Right. We do have some time though, so time is in our favor. So his followers came and told that Sati was insulted at the sacrificial arena and she took her own life. Lord Shiva became furious. And Bhagavatam says that it was not his eyes were coppery red and he was frowning, but he was laughing like a madman. And from his head, he took a single strand of hair. And then he took that hair out and he uttered the mantras and he dashed that hair to the ground. And from that act came a huge, humongously gigantic demon or being called Virabhadra. And it is mentioned about his appearance was so ferocious. And Virabhadra stood before Lord Shiva. He said, "Oh my master, what should I do?" He says, Lord Shiva's orders were crystal clear. He said, "Go kill Daksha and all of his followers in the sacrificial arena." And then Virabhadra marched to that arena. Now the ladies there started getting afraid because they came dressed up in nice jewelry to see some nice sacrifice, not World War III going on. The blood and gore that is about to ensure. They got scared. What's happening here? Are there some robbers attacking? Or what's happening? And then they realized it was the doing of Lord Shiva. And then sure enough, Virabhadra comes with his followers and they completely devastate the arena. They take all the pots that were there, they just scatter hither and thither, they harass the Brahmanas, harass the women. It seems, Bhagavatam mentions that they urinate all over the sacrificial place, and then they start killing the offenders of Lord Shiva. And eventually, offenders against Lord Shiva. And Bhrigu gets his teeth broken, then there is Pusha and some, horrible, please understand, people who watch horror movies, you don't need to go far. Bhagavatam has every rasa conceivable. So it's mentioned in all gories of what happens. They try to kill Daksha, Virabhadra tries to kill Daksha, but he can't kill. And then there is a guillotine kind of device that is used to chop the head of the animals which are there for the sacrifice. So Virabhadra drags Daksha into that guillotine, done, and then the head is chopped off from the body and that head is put into the sacrificial fire. And Daksha's lifeless body is there. Nice horror story. But the question might come again, why did Lord Shiva become so angry? Is he not Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu? That now it was really like a Godfather movie. People going and killing each other, it was like pretty gory. So you might question, Vaishnavanam Yata Shambhu, why did Lord Shiva again, perform this heinous act of killing everyone and the Brahmanas in the sacrificial arena? We'll do a little bit of that answer later, but we'll discuss a little bit more about the topic at hand. The anger can actually cause serious implications if it is uncontrolled. But in a controlled way, because Lord Shiva, I'll give the answer, then we'll go ahead, because everybody is waiting for the answer. Lord Shiva was very forbearing when it came to his own insults. Please remember, the whole drama started when Daksha insulted Lord Shiva in the sacrificial arena. But Lord Shiva did not protest. He didn't get angry and chop the head of Daksha right there, because that insult was directed against his own self, and he forbore it. As it is mentioned in the same Nectar of Instruction, that Lord Chaitanya would take any insult onto himself. And it was not that he didn't. When Lord Chaitanya was living in Jagannath Puri, there was an envious god brother of his spiritual master, whose name was Ramchandra Puri. And he was a fault finder. And he came to Jagannath Puri, he said, and then he saw the devotees or the followers of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu taking their prasad. And then he says, okay, this is the proof. I had Lord Chaitanya and his followers eat too much, and this is the practical proof. Look at this, how much of foodstuff are you eating? And Lord Chaitanya, he was very meek and humble. He said, okay, I'll just eat quarter of my portions every day. And this really put all his followers in great agony. But Lord Chaitanya was very forbearing. He didn't go and criticize Ramchandra Puri. In fact, when his followers said, Ramchandra Puri is saying all these nasty things about you and it's really burning our heart, what should we do? And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what is the wrong? And he said, I should control my senses. His good instruction that he gave me, and he reduced his eating. But when Nityananda Prabhu was struck by Jaga and Madai, Lord Chaitanya, by his own example, showed how the anger can be rightly utilized. So similarly, Lord Shiva, when he was first insulted by Daksha, he was very forbearing. He just didn't say anything and he walked away from the arena. But when his own wife was humiliated and insulted by the hard-hearted nature of Daksha, it is mentioned in Bhagavatam that Daksha committed an offense against his own daughter. So this is an important point. We think that our own children who are devotees or who are going to be devotees, they are fine. Usually our anger boils at home much more than what it happens outside. And please understand, our own children, they are devotees. And if we are too hard-hearted on them, then we are committing offenses against them in the name of just being disciplined, or just being, they have to be like a pure devotee, or, if you don't know the nature of child and you go overboard with your harsh discipline, then you are creating offenses. And that is on one level. The other level is, how much will the child actually absorb? Because the child will say, okay, fine, I have to please my parents, I'm dependent on them, I'll do it. But when he or she grows up, will they imbibe that value? Or will they say, just they made me do it, I'm going to go against it, even though it is the right thing both by the parents and for the child. So Daksha actually committed offense against his own daughter by being such hard-hearted, cruel thing. And Lord Shiva, his anger was not uncontrolled when he sent Virabhadra to kill all the followers of Daksha. Later, when all the people were killed, the demigods, they went to Brahma. Look at what Shiva did. He just vandalized the whole sacrificial arena, his followers, and Daksha is killed. Now how can we perform sacrifices? And then all the demigods go to Lord Brahma. They say, this is a serious crisis we need to perform the sacrifice. And Lord Brahma says, you offended Lord Shiva in that same sacrificial arena, you insulted him. And if you insult great personalities like Lord Shiva, there is not much hope. So you should go and pray to Lord Shiva with unreserved mind, and he will forgive you. And then all the demigods actually go to Lord Brahma along with, they say, okay, we have to go and please Lord Shiva. We insulted him once. Maybe you come along with us. If you come along with us, he'll be okay. So Lord Brahma takes all the demigods and goes to Kailash. And he meets Lord Shiva. And then Lord Shiva says, look, I'm willing to forgive, but there are certain penalties they have to pay. And then he says, Daksha will get the head of a goat. He can be brought back to life because he's a progenitor. He needs to create progeny. He'll be brought back to life, but he'll have the head of a goat. And so there is a head of the goat and it is attached to the body of Daksha. And Daksha comes alive. At that point of time, Daksha, he didn't take his goat horns and ram into Lord Shiva. Hey, you put me the head of the goat, I'm going to go. He actually says, oh Lord Shiva, you are a wonderful person. I committed so many offenses against you, but instead of ignoring me, you punished me. And because of your punishment, my offenses are gone. And I'm thankful for you. So if you see Lord Shiva's actions, they were not driven by uncontrolled anger, but with a desire for the welfare of Daksha to teach him and free him of these offenses. So in the end, it is proven that the anger on the level of false ego can actually destroy, but the same anger, when it is applied spiritually, it actually is beneficial. But to know when to apply and when not to and how much to apply, that requires management. So we have 30 more minutes. Should we go over a little bit of tips on how to manage one's anger? Is that good enough? All right. I hope you are not angry at me. One of the things, natural things, is that we hear extreme statements from Shastras that you have to, as if the anger management in terms of Vaishnava aparat, because it's one of the big things. For those who are not really familiar with the Vaishnava aparat, those who just joined today or who are not familiar, is that when the Supreme Lord or his devotees are blasphemed or criticized or scolded, then it is mentioned or said in the Shastras that one should take corrective action. And in the Shastras there are extreme examples wherein you can say you can kill the offender or cut the tongue of the offender. While all those things can be done and should be done if it is in that era, in the modern era it is better that you can either defeat that person through logic or you can walk away from that for your own sanity. Because Vaishnava aparat, even to commit or to speak is dangerous, but also to sit and listen is dangerous. The reason is Daksha's party, consisting of Bhrigu, Pusha and other Brahmanas, they were actually taking the side of Daksha, and when Shiva and his followers being cursed, they were smiling. Very nice. And it seems because they were showing their teeth, Pusha, his teeth was knocked out and he could not eat for the rest of his life. He had to eat chickpea flour, simple chickpea flour. That is, in India, I don't know if you heard sattu or some beverage like that made of chickpea flour. So he had to do that. That's about it. That's what he could do. Because they were part of the party where the Vaishnavas being offended, they lost their spiritual potency. So ideally we should avoid that. Wherever we can, we should be very sure. If you can't counter or argue or debate, then you should just walk away from that place. Because if you sit and listen, then your own spiritual powers wane, or if not destroyed. See, the other thing is anger comes through dissatisfaction. Dissatisfaction that even though you might have things, you might still hanker for things that you don't have. Or it can be many things. Either the looks that I cannot have, it could be the fame that I don't have or others have, it could be just the position in the company, or whatever could it be. But please understand that Krishna says one of the austerities for the conditioned soul is to satisfaction of mind. We are satisfied. And it's hard. Prabhu, it's very nice in theory. Be satisfied with what you have. But actually it is, if you take the scriptural or the foundational reason for that, is there is something called destiny. Everybody is destined to get certain things in their life, good or bad. That you cannot avoid. So knowing that, we are at peace. Knowing that, this is my due, I need to get it, or don't need to get it. So I'm okay with that. I don't really need a lot of things. One thing, with all due respect, it could be a mundane and material example, is, did anybody hear of an investor, a philanthropy, a businessman called Warren Buffett? How many houses does he have? He is supposed to be the world's second, third richest person. They keep fluctuating up and down. How many houses do you think he has? Thank you. 1. And when did he buy that house? 1958. In Omaha, Nebraska, for $31,500. He's been living in that same house all through his life. And there are billionaires, actually, who are not satisfied. They bought a string of properties on the Malibu beach, and they got an island in Hawaii itself. Whole island, they bought it. He says, I'm happy with one house. How many houses do I need? If I have more houses, then I have a headache. Might as well be satisfied with one house. The point is, he is a materialistic person and not a devotee, but he has a very important point. And he can have many houses, he can have people who can manage that houses. Yes, I'll come to you. But the satisfaction should be there. That, I'm grateful with what I have. The reason is, there is not only destiny, but also, eventually you give up everything that you have here. Nothing is something that you're going to take. So, that satisfaction one should cultivate through spiritual path, through one's own introspection, through the nature of this material world, that it is what it is. So why worry too much? That is the satisfaction of mind, cultivating the satisfaction of mind. So how to deal with Vaishnava aparadh and how to cultivate satisfaction of mind. You had, Alex, you had some point? Thank you.
Is this man have a wife?
Yes. And children.
And children?
Yes.
Okay, it's very interesting.
And he pretty much gave away all of his money to charity. He's already written off saying that I'm going to give my money to charity. And he has the same car that he is driving around for 10 years or something like that. He is worth $60-70 billion with a B. It's an interesting read that he
He have qualities like husband, make satisfaction for his wife with only one house, and not too much. No, I talk about it because man can be satisfied without anything.
Right.
We have sadhana, and it satisfied us. We can talk with deities, we play kirtan or something else, and we can be satisfied. But women have in 10 times more powerful wishes and emotional, yeah? And our man's predestination take care about his family. We are like a first person in family, and we must take care about more younger person, yeah. And if our wife or kids not satisfied, but we like first person don't. Say I'm satisfied and you don't need anything. It's like violence about a more younger person.
I wish your words were true, especially for the President of United States.
It's a little bit different way.
So it's not a gender-specific thing. The point I'm trying to make there is, it's not like all the men have complete satisfaction and peace with what they have, and they have no desires in the world, and it's just the women that are that have more desires. So it's not a gender specific thing. Yes, women have their nature in how they have certain way of doing things, and men have a different natures. But for a man or a woman whose mind is uncontrolled, it really doesn't matter towards the end. That satisfaction won't still be there. Women may have a different level of dissatisfaction versus men. For example, the common, I don't want to stereotype. Please forgive me if I am trying to stereotype. That's not my intention. But in general, men are very dissatisfied about cars. You really are not satisfied. You just need to change it. It doesn't matter. You have the money to pay for it or not. In general, again, it's always, there are exceptions to that rule. And women may have a little bit of dissatisfaction with the clothes. Ask them to wear the same clothes 10 times, 10 days in a row. On the second day, they will say probably no. Again, it's a stereotype. But the idea is that dissatisfaction is true of any nature. Then the way it is expressed is different. Did I make sense? Everybody in the audience agree? Or they've gotten angry? If you have gotten angry, we are doing the tip management, so right there, hold the thought. All right. So one of the other things to manage the anger, physical activity is very important. In the modern world, please understand that the stresses are mental. And when they are not released through some physical activity, they tend to get, the anger level shoots up. It is found that, this is very important both for the mental and physical to have some physical activity going on in one form or other. It's pretty important. At least those who don't. Those who lead a very sedentary lifestyle, sitting in front of computer all day long, and then in the evening just sitting at home in front of TV all day long or whatever. You just sit. You drive, you sit. You're at office, you sit. You're at home, you sit. So it's very important that one gets some physical exertion, because just the mind is, acting. The psychologists, what they say is cognitive restructuring is a very powerful tool to negate anger. The cognitive restructuring is facing the anger or the emotions through logic. I'll give a simple example. Assume that for some reason or other, the wife is cooking, and for some reason that whatever happened, the cooking or the dish got burnt. It was in the oven. So the joke goes is that somebody says to his friend, I burnt 2,000 calories and I feel good about it. And then he says to his friend, but I should tell my wife to remind me that I shouldn't turn on the oven and go for a nap. So for some reason, the dish got completely baked, boiled, toasted, burnt black, beyond recognition. That dish, instead of eating, you can use it for a weapon, so hard. If you hit, it will go through the door. The natural instinct will be anger. But then, if you coolly, calmly think, logical reason, what's the worst that can happen with this? Yeah, the dish is burnt, probably you can't have prasadam now, but at least you can make something, or you can cook something, maybe you can have some fruits. When you put logic in the face of emotions, it's much easier. What's the worst that can happen? I didn't get that promotion, so what's the worst that can happen? Or maybe there is a reason why this happened. So that cognitive restructuring of this whole situation really helps. The other thing is, during that stage, the words always and never come up. You're always late. Why did you do this? Or you're always burning the dishes. Why did you do that? You're never on time. So that because any anger which is not, because people might say, look, people will need to vent time from time, right? You have to do that, and that's the natural way of doing stuff. But the thing is that rational can quickly become irrational if it goes out of control. That venting can go in a very, very negative and off-tangent way. What started as one thing will end up in a whole other way. Because take that example of the dish being burnt. It can go, in the marriage I told you to wear that, you married 20 years ago. In the marriage I told you to wear that and you wore this, and you will never listen to me. Where is that thing to do with the burnt dish? No, the problem is that the dish is burnt and you need to find something to eat and offer it to the Lord. That is an important problem to solve. And it goes into the marriage tangent. Or it goes into that party where we had something going on and then the whole thing is continuing. The poor Lord is not having anything to eat in the meanwhile. So the point is that this has happened and a cognitive restructuring is really helpful. The idea here is not to eliminate anger but to manage it in a reasonable way. And the other aspect of it is problem solving. So instead of taking it as a situation to get angry on, how can we solve that problem? What can we do to improve it? Not all situations can actually find a problem. Sometimes, because when you take it as a problem solving challenge, then you can at least test the limits of what you can do. You cannot find problems today, but at least you have calmed yourself to say that, I'm trying to find a solution here rather than venting and all the negative emotions that can block. As somebody said, my intelligence is really stopped. Because Krishna says in the further thing that Sangat sanjayate kama, kamat krodho vijayate, krodhat bhavati sammohat, smriti vibramaha, smriti vamshat buddhinasho, buddhinashat vinashyati. So that intelligence is completely destroyed in the anger, and the solution is lost. So if a problem-solving approach is taken, then it's much more helpful. And you will see that that often you will be much relieved. Your anger, if you're able to manage it, you will be later relieved that the relationship was not affected. My own blood pressure didn't become too high, and I'm still alive. And we try to find a problem. Any questions? Any comments before I go to the next two? Yes, Achyuta Kumar Prabhu. You can use that mic maybe. It's on or green? Oh. It's a technical difficulty.
Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful class. My question is, in the beginning we said, right, Dhyayato Vishayan Pumsa. So we are contemplating on the object of senses. So is the anger directly correlated to the object that we are contemplating? For example, it is a taste of the food. Let's take some example as a taste of a food. Mm-hmm. So we are contemplating on that and it doesn't turn out to be tasty. So does the anger restrict only to that part, or it could be something else also?
A good point. In the modern lifestyle, there could be so many underlying factors. Things have happened that it is building up and you just need a spark or a matchstick. In your case, it could be that over a period of time, work was really stressful. And you are somehow taking it. On top of it, your colleague is gone for vacation and that additional work is also dumped on you. And that stress is building up and your family members might not be aware of it. All you need to do is your wife put a little bit more salt that day. And that is the matchstick that lit the dynamite. So, the emotions, the anger can be as a result of build-up of few things. And one of the ways to help out is to acknowledge, to understand, to tell the near ones that there is a communication going on about your feelings that can impact them, because they don't understand. Your wife will be, if she doesn't know that all these things are happening at work, she'll think that because I cooked and a little bit salt, that was the problem, with no connect on the state of affairs. And she will be in a feeling really bad that I try to cook best for my husband and he doesn't appreciate. And it can go into a quick spiral, which is nothing to do with either of that. Cooking was the trigger. So it depends. You could be like a really food critic. You know, one of the jobs of the world people have, go to restaurants and write, you know, reviews on the taste. God forbid you are the wife of such a person. That's a joke. Then in that case, the dish is something you are habituated to finding faults with cooking, and you ended up doing that. It's a different thing rather. So it's contextual and it's situational based on what it is triggering. Right? Does that helps?
Yes, Prabhu, thank you. I have one other question. So, is it possible to control anger for the people who are not Krishna conscious or not chanting? That's part of the question. And second thing is, we have seen people in ISKCON, there are some marriages and both are chanting and still, you know, they fight, right? So, what is the correlation here? Is it what exactly is building up? Is it beyond their control, or you know, when people get to chanting and you know, eating prasadam, will things subside?
Let's go one question at a time, because I'll forget two questions. So your question is, should we be angry at those who are not devotees? Is that your question?
No. Can the non-devotees manage the anger, like without chanting and without getting to Krishna conscious?
Temporarily, yes. Temporarily, yes. I have seen people who are expert at your jobs. For example, they are in, you know, yeah, they can do it, because there could be some sort of psychological stuff that they can practice. Just like, you know, you practice, people who are non-devotees, can they win athletic gold medals? Sure, they can. And similarly, they might be able to tolerate. But the thing is that attachment, they will be able to tolerate that anger for a certain purpose, for a certain time. And usually that repression of anger comes from the fear of one's existence. If I get angry at my boss, how many people go and yell at their boss every day in the morning first thing? You really, you know, intensely dislike that person. Either him or her. I don't want to go a stereotype, gender type. But you go and vent it out every day morning and then go back to your work? No, you don't. You may be very good at suppressing the anger, but the thing is, that sort of anger suppression is temporary, and eventually it's not going to give you lasting benefit. Without the process of spiritual life, it is very hard to permanently be at peace. Right? So, yeah, yes and no to your answer. Eventually it is, when time comes, everybody is upset and angry. When old age comes, you know, it's just the way it is. Without Krishna consciousness, there is no permanent solution. There is temporary solutions always. Is that helpful? And the second question you had was?
So why do, you know, people who are Krishna conscious, who are chanting, still get angry and still...
Please understand that just because we have taken up to Krishna consciousness doesn't mean the anger gets turned off overnight. It's a work in progress. Especially in a high area like Silicon Valley, where the cost of living is more and both the spouses have to work, of course there will be disagreements. It's not that they don't have disagreements, it is that how they manage their disagreements, how committed they are to that relationship. how forgiving and how apologetic they are each other. Yes, I yelled at you, but I was way out of their line there. Will you please forgive me? And then it's just not that it should not happen. It is what is done after it has happened, because the situation is here like that. Even if it is not, I remember my grandmother, my mother's mother. She was an illiterate lady. She barely knew how to sign checks. And my grandfather was a farmer. He had land and he cultivated it. Still they were fighting. So it's just the nature of that relationship that leads to some sort of anger. It's just how it's worked out and adjusted. But that's a whole other topic for some other time. All right. Any other questions? All right. We have 5 more minutes. Communication, last 2 points. We'll see if at least we can chant the Maha Mantra. The easy way to control anger or to manage anger is to chant. We'll chant on our fingers. But last 2 points is communication. As I said earlier, the wife cooked a nice dish for the husband and the salt was more and the husband was having stress at work. And unless there was no communication, it can quickly spiral out of control. The wife doesn't know why, and the husband is like, my things are going wrong, and at least this I was expecting some comfort, and this went wrong. And you just see, just having a small talk saying, okay, you are stressful at work, okay, this happened. So communication will always help. And humor will really help. If the wife goes and says to the husband, oh, you're almost wonderful. And the husband, what do you mean almost wonderful? I do so much for you. It can go like that, right? Husband can say, oh, I almost thank you for your compliment. People will laugh. This is just like, okay, instead of taking it in a negative way, humor can actually diffuse stuff. Laughing out stuff is because, any other final points, concerns, comments? Yes.
So, Prabhuji, in day-to-day life, in working area, so if some teams are like the colleagues, if they do something, we suggest don't do this, it's not right way of doing it. And we ignore it's okay, tolerate is kind of, but they still mistake it. So, being anger with them, stop doing this, or just escalating to the next level is what is the best option to do it in this situation. Or is controlling anger, okay, leave it, but it's not helping.
Yeah, it depends, right? If the work is being impacted, then something needs to be done. So it depends.
But sometime in I feel it's not good, because when I get anger, then I lost myself basically, and then I realize leave it.
Yeah. So it's situational. I don't know if there is, for example, high pressure at work and you need to deliver something, and people have to be Hare Krishna. People have to be doing at their best, and there is serious implications, then maybe anger is justified. But if it's more of a training course where people are just being trained and they are very new comers to the job, then there is some leeway. So it depends. At work also, you just can't blindly give one answer which is right or wrong. If you are in operating surgery and you are getting operated, and then there is a nurse that is being trained, and the doctor says, you are in the middle of operation. Oh, it's some mistakes. That's fine. We just put something in his body and stitched it up. That's okay. It happens. So you see where I'm trying to say. You use your intelligence to see whether the anger is needed at that point of time, or it's going to harm. The other thing is the person. If the person is humble and willing to learn and be chastised, then anger might be helpful. But if the person is really demoniac and egoistic and just like a violent person who you are scared will come with a gun at you, then you might have to think twice. Workplace shooting is reasonably common these days. So.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So you have to assess and take the appropriate decision.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I think it's 5. I don't think we have time for chanting now, right? So one more question. Ramanska Prabhu, you are the temple commander. Whatever you say, I'll do. All right. I think we have time for just one last question. If not, then we'll stop here. And I'm really thankful for patiently listening to the class. And please forgive me for any things that I might have said accidentally that might have caused some disturbance in your mind. So I'm grateful that you gave me the chance to this class, and then we'll all get up now and we will do the Aarti for their lordships. So my humble request is that as efficiently as we can, just take all the mats and put it in the back and we can get up for the Aarti. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya